Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mio 1 MMA podcast, recapping UFC Nashville, the Derek Lewis card that we obligatorily get every year, where we got to put Derek Lewis in a main event, even though nobody wants to see Derek Lewis fight beyond like a round. So it's always been kind of a pointless thing for me giving him 5 rounds because you don't want to see it. I had a conversation on Twitter with somebody about this, basically, where it's like, he was like, I will never let the hipsters convince me Derek Lewis fights are not fun. The knockouts are fun. The rest of the fight is not necessarily fun. There are some exceptions, but not really. So the main event didn't really need to be a main event, I guess, is a main problem with the card. Otherwise, I mean, the card delivered some finishes, obviously. Pretty high number here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 finishes in 12 fights is pretty damn good. The only decisions were Wonderboy versus Bonfim, Garcia versus Cater, and Curtis versus Griffin. Oh, pardon me, there's a 4th decision here. Mora versus Murphy. So I guess there were only 8 finishes then. So, pretty good in that regard. Delivering the action, delivering the fun. Not much that I would say go out of your way to avoid. I mean, the Bonfim versus Thompson fight made me angry. And the Cater versus Garcia fight is probably one that I personally won't go revisit. So there are some low points on the card, but that can't really be helped. It was pretty decent in that regard. Now, what I will say is that, again, I treat the UFC as a premium product, which means I like to have impact to the fights, because otherwise, if you just want a couple of knockouts, any regional promotion will do. There's going to be a fun fight on any fight card in the middle of Iowa. If you're in West Virginia, if you're in Kentucky, it does not matter. There's going to be something like reasonably fun on any of those regional cards. And that's the problem with the UFC, with this card in particular, but also a lot of other offerings. There wasn't a lot of like impactful stuff. There were a couple of like good prospects on this card. Talishan Teixeira, Fatima Klein. I guess you could add Mike Davis to that list. Is Walter Walker? Maybe, I don't know. And then Vitor Petrino. So, and Morgan Charrier. So there's a couple of decent prospects here, but like the fights that they were in didn't really tell me much about them. The only exception maybe is Charrier, but like, what does Vitor Petrino's win tell me? Nothing really. What does Fatima Klein's win tell me? Nothing really. What does Mike Davis's win tell me? Nothing really. What does Walter Walker's win tell me? Well, actually, that one's a fair bit. And that goes down to how far just having heel hooks will take you in the UFC's heavyweight division. So I guess that one did tell me some things. But there was a general lack of that. And, of course, with Teixeira, we didn't learn much. I mean, if you went into this fight with Teixeira and Lewis, and we might as well just kick that off. If you went into this fight like being like, man, Talishan Teixeira can't be knocked out by Derek Lewis, there's something wrong with you. And I say that as somebody who picked Teixeira. Like, it's not like I have a great deal of insight on Talishan Teixeira that I did not have before. The fight is him. He's coming out, putting a little bit of pressure on, moving forward, doing things, and then, he knuckles Lewis in the eye with like his second or third punch of the fight. And then Lewis like gets angry and knocks him out. Like, hurts him very badly, puts him down, starts pounding on him on the ground. Herzog steps in after Teixeira like picks himself up by dragging himself up the cage to get back to his feet. And he turns to face Lewis, and it looks like he's good to go. It looks like he's here for it. He's ready to fight. He's ready to, put things in play and stop the fight. So it's a bad stoppage. Now, am I particularly angry? Well, actually, hang on. Let me make one thing clear. There were a couple people trying to defend this stoppage that it was essentially because Teixeira pulled himself up by the cage, which is against the rules, which is a foul, which is a point deduction, which is a DQ. All of these options, but none of those things happened. So that was irrelevant to whether this was a good stoppage or not, because the stoppage, there is no stoppage rule that when you pull yourself up or you commit a foul, you're not intelligently defending yourself. That's not on the table. That's not something that it's not something that exists. It's just not something that's in the rules. So that's irrelevant. And he didn't DQ, and it's not a DQ loss for Teixeira. It's a TKO or a knockout. I forget which one they The difference is always a bit weird. KO slash TKO. So the Tapology just doesn't even bother differentiating between the two. Stoppage. So, bad stoppage by Herzog, which is a shame because he's a very, very good ref. He's one of my favorite refs. But at the same time, I think the same thing was going to happen. Because my concern going into this fight is that Teixeira is, to his credit, trying to be a defensive boxer. And what I mean by that is he's trying to slip and do things, slick things. The slickster sort of defensive ideas a la Ilia Topuria. And if that works out for him, and if he gets that working, that will make him probably instantly one of the better defensive boxers at heavyweight. But he is at the moment bad at it. And Lewis quickly found the chin, quickly hurt him, and I think was going to hurt him again. His only hope was basically that Lewis had punched himself out in the process of doing that. And in which case, I don't particularly want to see that. Like, I can't say that Lewis had this fight won because Pat Barry versus Czech Congo knocks on the door and goes, "Am I a joke to you?" And if you've never seen that fight, go watch that fight. That is an amazing fight. And I say this as not a fan of Pat Barry, not a fan of Czech Congo. Go watch that fight. It's about one or two. It's like one of literally maybe two fights of Czech Congos. I actually would recommend going to watch fight. The other one is for pure comedic purposes, his fight in Bellator with Vitaly Minikov, where they, I swear, hit each other in the balls 25 times. And if you know anything about Czech Congo, it's never happened to a more deserving fellow. Those would be the only two fights of that. But the comeback is possible. It's there. It's available. But if we did this fight, and we didn't stop this fight, and we did it 10 times, Lewis knocks him out 9 of those times. So I'm not angry at the result, but that doesn't make it not a bad stoppage. So whatever, there are no standards, so it doesn't matter. Herzog will just referee the next fight they have him scheduled for. So there's not really much there, but because there are terrible refs that have kept their job for a long time. Anyways, after the fight, Derek Lewis does his thing. The pants are off. The cup is in the crowd. He's going. Who's next? My wife. It's a good time. It's a fun time. It didn't need 5 rounds. There you go. Does this mean a lot for Teixeira? Not really, honestly. He's still very young. He's still big. He's still powerful. It's the thing is it's why I don't really like having young fighters fight Derek Lewis, because if Lewis beats them, it doesn't really tell us a lot because it's Derek Lewis. And if they beat Derek Lewis, that also doesn't tell us a ton because that's Derek Lewis. It was as a test fight, this just didn't really do anything. Now there is some talk of Derek Lewis getting a title shot. I'd prefer not. Here is my reason for not. We know what Derek Lewis is, and we know he's not a UFC champion caliber guy. And that doesn't mean that he can't win the title, because he could. He's got that power. He's got that death touch. He can put somebody out. He could knock Tom Aspinall out. And the problem I'd have with that is, oh my God, would this division go really downhill at that point? And I would probably enjoy Derek Lewis as a champion as much as anything, but oh boy, no, that would be terrible. I with the whole John Jones drama, I want this division to move on to a place where it actually is back to, or maybe for the first time ever in a long time, being a stable, properly functioning division, and giving Derek Lewis a title shot and having him possibly win really would not do that. And beating Lewis for Aspinall just doesn't do much either. It's kind of like what was really at stake here for Talish and Teixeira was just a name, and Aspinall needs that even less than Teixeira does. We moved down to the bad decision tonight: Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. I picked Thompson initially. I switched to Bonfim. I chickened out. I shouldn't have, because Thompson won this fight, but Bonfim gets the W, gets his hands raised, and it really just comes down to the third round. First round, that's Bonfim's. Bonfim got him to the ground. He didn't punish Thompson a ton, didn't work him over a lot, but he worked for submissions. He did the things. How many submission attempts did they even credit him with? None. Really, I don't know about that. But that minute and a half he had top position, he did the work, and obviously Wonder Boy didn't really manage to do much of anything. Like, he landed apparently 9 strikes in the round. So easy, 10-9, Bonfim moving on. Second round, Wonder Boy, outside of getting his shin split open by a checked kick, he's in this now. He's got the range, he's doing things, he's outlanding him 2-1 on the feet. Did get taken down, yes, 1 for 5 on takedowns, 1 minute 18 seconds of top control, but like not enough to really do anything. So obviously, there are people that want to score this round for Bonfim, and to those people, go away. just please read the damage-based criteria. And I guess the excuse would be, well, he got the shin split open. It's like, yeah, but he got the shin split open by his own offense. Let's not go nuts here. Like, he had Bonfim hurt a number of times in this round. It's not like the cut was the only visible damage. He had Bonfim hurt. He landed a couple of head kicks. This was the classic Wonder Boy round. This was turning the clock back. And then the third round is somewhere in between. It's the second most competitive round, I grant you. And with about 90 seconds to go, Bonfim gets a takedown. And in my notes it says, all right, Bonfim's got him down here for 90 seconds. He can win the fight here by a finish, or even just making a statement, because he hasn't been outstruck that badly in this round. Wonder Boy got more done than in the first round, but significantly less than in the second round. And Bonfim proceeds to dry hump his leg for 90 seconds. And that's the thing. He had lost. He had been outlanded on the feet. He had been hit harder. He had been hit cleaner. He had been damaged more. The effective striking and the damage has to go to Wonder Boy, and that round is his. Bonfim, quote-unquote, won the grappling, but he won the grappling by dry humping a leg and holding top position and doing nothing with it. Like, disturbingly little with it. I'm sorry, that is not Bonfim's round. Bonfim did not win. And I picked him. I chickened out. I backed away from my Wonder Boy pick. Should have backed away from my Cater pick instead of my Wonder Boy pick. But, yeah, no, Wonder Boy won this fight in 2025, the year of our Lord, and that's, I don't know how to feel about that. The fact that Wonder Boy can still beat potentially ranked fighters is, it's hard to know what to do with that necessarily. That's a tough one. But he won this fight, and he was classy. No arguments, no trying to, steal the spotlight from Bonfim. He was very congratulatory, very, he did the Wonder Boy thing, which is like high-level sportsmanship. So, I guess in that regard, good on him. But bad on the judges, Which judges were this again? Let me see. Do we have it listed? Mike Bell. All right, so the judges for this card were Mike Bell, Dave Torelli. They were the ones that got it wrong. Rick Winter scored it for Wonder Boy. And assuming his card doesn't look really bizarre, i.e. giving round 1 or something to Wonder Boy, 29-28 is how this should have been scored for Wonder Boy. So, Rick Winter, 2 thumbs up, man. You got it right. The other 2 judges, Dave Torelli, Mike Bell, had a lot of problems with you in the past. No exception here. You guys suck. And we move on down, which is to Calvin Kattar versus Steven Garcia. And I was wrong. I was right in some regards. I said Kattar's still durable. He's still tough. Garcia is largely reliant on a knockout, and he's not going to get one here. And he didn't. But actually, this was actually worse than Kattar getting knocked out, because Calvin Kattar went out there and got outworked, outlanded, and out-strategized by Steve Garcia, who is, by the division standards, one of the least effective strategists you're going to find. Like, he's a boink machine, and Kattar only landed double-digit strikes in one round, that being the third round, which was his best round. So, what does this mean for Garcia? Very little. It's, it's good to see him fight at a decent pace for 15 minutes and everything, but that's kind of like bare minimum required at featherweight, so it doesn't like open up any ideas of like, oh, well, he could win this hypothetical fight with insert person here because I now have faith in him to have cardio. I had faith in. It's not like I thought he was a gas machine or something. It's just, his way of winning is to bonk, and that didn't really get improved here. But hey, he gets the win. He gets a technically ranked win because Cater is still ranked for some reason. It really should not be. This is the problem with the UFC rankings, is at some point, I get it that Cater is not lost to anybody who doesn't deserve to be ranked. Like, his worst loss prior to this was Yusuf Zalal. So it's like, well, he's lost to nothing but good guys. I understand that. I grasp that. I'm on board with that. But at some point, the lack of wins has to get you removed from the rankings. Even if you're like on a 5-fight losing streak against the 5 best fighters in the world at your weight class, at some point you actually have to win to get a ranking. At some point there has to be a W. And for Cater, he has not won since his fight with Giga Chikadze. So that is essentially what it is. So he looked gun shy. He looked like he couldn't deal with what was a reach of range disadvantage, and he got outside boxed by Steve Garcia. That is bad. I will not be picking Calvin Kattar again on principle. I think, honestly, like even if they put him in there with someone just very bad, I'm gonna be like forced to sadness hedge. Like if they put him in there with a guy fresh off Contender Series, I'm just gonna have to sadness hedge and pick the guy off Contender Series, because that is how broken Kattar looks at this point. Like it's retirement time. You're at an age where reinventing yourself is not really on the cards. Like, you're my age and you're fighting in the UFC. So congratulations for that. But it is over. I don't want to say it's completely over. There are some people that have like Andrei Arlovsky has had like 4 or 5 over moments and somehow came back from most of them. So there is weirdness that can happen, but Kattar, I don't know. It seems like the only guy he would have an answer for is somebody that he is taller than, longer than, and is not at all evasive right now. Like, had he got knocked out by Steve Garcia, it probably would have felt better for his like going forward chances. He got outmaneuvered and outboxed by Steve Garcia. That is bad. Morgan Charrier, Nate Landwehr was a fun time. This fight went pretty much exactly how I expected it to, just with a knockout for Charrier instead of going to the cards. I thought Landwehr would win. I thought Landwehr would struggle early. He did. Charrier's speed, counter game, general range play, the absolute high ceiling stuff that he has was working and won him the first round. He hurt Landwehr a number of times. He was landing very clean. The low kicks were beautiful, knotted up the leg of Landwehr, and I'm like, this is all going according to plan. Now let's watch Landwehr charge back. Let's see the train come back in round 2. And he did. Because the problem for Charrier is still the same thing coming out of this fight that it was coming into this fight. He would go out there and he would land a very, very nice counter. He'd be like, hey, Landwehr, come in. Bam. Super hard, super clean, super nice. But Landwehr would still be standing. And Landwehr would still be coming, and he would be throwing, all right, you counter punch number 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to keep coming. And Charrier still doesn't seem to know how to deal with that. And the fact that he won this fight by knockout doesn't actually make me feel any better about that, because in the third round, what happened was Charrier just came out and just brawled. He just went like, oh, let me just throw big, like awkward, ugly, formless stuff, like abandon my game and just like take your head off, which I guess is a response on the table. I suppose it is, but it's not actually solving the problem. And I think that a better fighter, or at least a better athlete, not necessarily, because like Landwehr is a high-end fighter. Dude's got all the scrap in the world in him. But a fighter with a higher ceiling, physically speaking and technically speaking, would take that version of Charrier and just knock them out. Because he was wide open. It's just Landwehr is all about the brawl. He doesn't have like super great speed or power or explosiveness. That's not what he does. So the problem now is that, okay, Charrier figured out a way to beat the Landwehrs of the world. And that was to just go nuts. But that's going to get him knocked out by anybody else. So it doesn't really make any kind of representative forward momentum. But hey, he got a win against somebody good. This is honestly the best win of Charrier's career, because I said this in the breakdown coming up to it, the preview. Charrier's record against people who have like legitimate names is quite bad. It's a loss to Nathaniel Wood. It's a loss to Chepe Mariscal. It's a loss to Paul Hughes. It's a loss to Jordan Vucenic. It's a loss to Soren Bach. It's a loss to Ruslan Kazmarev. It's a loss to Saladin Parnassus. There is no wins. His best win, well, is a win over an Alexei Olenek, but it's not that Alexei Olenek. His best named win was like Gabriel Miranda, and Miranda is like not good. He is a I don't want to say can crusher because that's going too far, but like it's a guy whose best win is Shane Young, and it's probably not going to get any higher than that, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's good to get that win, but like I still do not trust Charrier's game against an actual challenging fighter. Like I just don't. If he sticks to his technical clinical style, he doesn't have answers for the brawl. And apparently his only answer for the brawl is just go complete mindless, like, Korean zombie mode. Not even Korean zombie mode, like Leonard Garcia mode. And knock him out. And that's, it's not going to work. I have very, very little to say about Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. Rear naked choke win for Petrino. He did his thing. I don't think heavyweight fixes any of his problems. But hey, if not having to keep an eye on your weight and not having to weight cut helps him improve some of the other things about his game, go ahead. There are plenty of heavyweights that he can beat, but beating Austin Lane does not mean anything. Like, there's a reason Austin Lane is now 1-4 with a no contest in the UFC. He lost to Greg Hardy on Contender Series back in the day. He's lost to guys like Vernon Lewis and Frank Tate, who are not UFC caliber fighters. His best win, his only real win actually worth anything, is Juan Adams. That's about it. Because his UFC win is Robelis to Spain, and it's just like Robelis to Spain is like terrible at everything except for punching really hard. Tukatokus was getting his butt kicked by Junior Tafa, and then he choked him. He threw a just like really messy flying knee, got the takedown off of it, and eventually got an arm triangle from top position. So good work by Tukatokus getting the win, but you got outstruck pretty badly. You did get takedowns. I mean, technically speaking, 4 minutes of top control in the first round, 3 minutes of top control in the second round. But like if you look at the actual damage, it's not great. And yeah. Does Junior Tafa going down to 205 fix anything? The answer is no. He got taken down 5 times by Tukatokus. He is still really just kind of a boxer. I think I literally said that the whole time, is like, if he's just going down to 205 because he thinks it'll fix problems, it's not going to work. If he's going down to 205 because he's been slimming down, because he's been like really working the gym, he's been on the mats, he's been trying to develop his game, and it's just kind of like incidentally, like, you know, get on the scale and be like, hey, I'm down to like 230. Maybe I should just cut to 205 and see how that goes. Okay, we do a trial cut to 205. All right, that felt good. I feel good, and go on. That clearly was not what this was. Nothing really changed about Tafa's game. He's still bad. I will say that the people saying that they are the worst set of brothers in the UFC history, you're wrong, because we have the Azitars, but they are pretty down low. Moving on down this fight card, we had Chris Curtis versus Max Griffin. I did think the right decision here on the split was made, with Chris Curtis getting the win. I will say that I still don't feel great about Chris Curtis. There were moments where, like, I understand that, like, he was fouled, and I'm not saying anything about him faking a foul or anything, but you ever notice that Chris Curtis, like, is always looking for the foul? Like, anytime that something happens, little clash of heads, whatever, he's looking at the ref, like, ref, he fouled me, ref, he fouled me. And also, to be clear here, clash of heads tends to be a 50-50 kind of thing. Generally, it's not simply one guy's fault. And Curtis will often be looking for that to be like a blame for the other fighter. At the end of the day, I think Griffin just kind of ran out of gas in this fight. He was doing the right things. He was backpedaling from Chris Curtis a lot, trying to get away, trying to keep the range, trying to do what people have historically been able to do to Curtis, which is out-volume him at range and befuddle his desire to find the inside. And the problem is that, well, I shouldn't say that he faded out, because his output actually went up at each round. But as the fight went on, Chris Curtis was able to corner him against the fence a lot more and start to land. So if you look at his landing, it's like 11 to 23 to 37. So like he gets stronger and stronger as time goes on. Griffin was less and less able to keep the fight low output and control the range. And that was really about it. There's not a ton else to say. Does going down to 170 really fix things for Chris Curtis? I think a little bit. I think it's a better weight class change than Petrino or Tafa's, because one of his problems at 185 was legitimately size. People were taller, longer, bigger, stronger than him. And I don't know why he didn't go down way earlier, because he's on the record a couple of times saying that like he's eating to keep weight on, sort of thing. Like he was staying at 185 not because that was where he naturally kind of fell, or because he didn't, not even because he didn't like to cut weight, because he would put on like weight to get up to like 205, 210 and then cut down to 185. So why the 170 wasn't just like a thing to begin with, I don't know. So it does fix some problems, but I do think that some fundamental issues are still there, that he's not great at finding his range if an opponent doesn't want to give him it. And that happened here. That's how he lost the first round to Griffin here. And I think it's just that Griffin, being 39 years old, eventually lost him the fight. I think that if he runs into guys who are like 5'11", 6 feet tall at welterweight, there's going to be a very similar problem to what he was having at middleweight, just without the takedown aspect or the ability to manhandle. So like that's better. Like he's better suited to dealing with grapplers at this level. I just think that strikers will give him much the same issue. But he got the W here today. I picked him to lose, so obviously I wear the egg on my face on that one. Jake Matthews had a impressive 1 minute and 9 second rear naked choke victory over Chidi Njokuani. Very impressed by that. I picked Matthews to win. I went back and forth on that fight, but I picked him to win. Just kind of, I thought he would have to work like a couple things. He would have to strike a little bit with Chidi, set up some takedowns, work some takedowns. But like, it was kind of weird though. Like a lot of people just thought that like Jake Matthews would like stand and bang entirely with Chidi, and I was like, that's not really going to happen. Like I kind of get it. Like he didn't take down Francisco Prado. He only took down Phil Rowe once. He didn't take down Darius Flowers. It's been a hot second since we saw a heavy takedown performance by Jake Matthews. You'd have to go back to like the Emil Weber-Meek fight, but like that's also the last fight he's had where like he can't strike with people. Like if you think about it, it's like, yeah, he struck with Francisco Prado because he could do that. He struck with Phil Rowe because Phil Rowe's a really unstructured striker. He struck with Michael Morales because you're not taking Michael Morales down. He struck with Darius Flowers because Darius Flowers is just a mess. And it's like, we haven't seen a fight where like wrestling and being determined to grapple was a path to victory since the fight that he had done it. So I had faith that he would at least, be willing to do it. I thought he would have to be convinced a little bit. I thought he would maybe eat some crap on the feet from Chidi before like becoming a wrestler. And he just did it right off the bat. So, hey, 2 thumbs up. That might actually have been my most impressive, fighter I raised the stock of the most, because it conveys that Matthews will attack opponents' weaknesses, even if he would like to be a striker. So that's good. Eduardo Mora beat Lerone Murphy. Murphy just looked Lauren Murphy. Oh my God. Oh, that's terrible. I'm leaving that in. Lauren Murphy in her retirement fight at 41 years old. It went like you would expect. Murphy looked slow compared to Mora, and Mora's not that fast, so like that's not a great sign. Mora outworked her in the early going. Didn't really go for takedowns as much. I was expecting more of a takedown oriented game from Mora. Like she was 1 for 1 in the first round, 1 for 2 in the second round, so like it was there obviously, but she attempted 3 takedowns. Murphy attempted 9, so that was a bit surprising. I know Murphy is like a jiu-jitsu player. She will go for takedowns and so on, so like I'm not mind boggled, but she just looked slow, and she got out significant striked in all 3 rounds, although I gave her the 3rd round because she had that really, really killer guillotine, which was like the biggest fat part of the round, of the fight, basically. So Mora gets the win by being younger and more in tune with the current meta, and Murphy can head on to retirement. I will say her husband was again fairly useless in the corner. I hate to bang on about this because it feels kind of icky. Like she's retiring, but I can't help myself. I can't help myself. Just yelling like she's melting. Anyways, I assume Maura, by the way, called out Jamie Lynn Horth. She called out Jamie Lee. Unless I'm really forgetting somebody, Jamie Lynn Horth is the only one that makes sense there. So, I mean, that's a winnable fight for her. That makes sense, I guess. It's a not terribly dissimilar fight to the Murphy fight, but with someone who's younger and more active. And then Walter Walker submitted Kennedy Nzechukwu with a heel hook. 3 in a row. Go you. Keep this guy off your legs, and you might win. And then Mike Davis basically overpowered Mitch Ramirez for a round. Got some takedowns going, got some work done, and then in the second round, it started to look maybe a little bit concerning. Like Davis looked a little sluggish, but like he was also still throwing and like landing really, really cleanly against Ramirez, and eventually just knocked him out. So go Mike Davis, go do your thing. You have an immensely high ceiling. I just don't know if I trust your brain. And but he got the job done in this case, and I'm not surprised. Fatima Klein, our big favorite on the day, minus 4-figure favorite, went out there and largely struck with Melissa Martinez, abused the range, showed off her stuff. Things I knew she had. People were freaking out and being like, she has to go for takedowns. I'm like, he's outlanding her 2-1. What are you talking about? It's not like Martinez was giving her like any problems whatsoever. She outlanded her 92-44 in significant strikes, 95-52 overall. Like she was beating this girl up. And there were a couple of people actually nervous about it. Third round comes around. Klein lands a big head kick and puts the finishing. Some people said this was a bad stoppage. I disagree. I disagree very heavily. If you watch the replay of the finish, it was very clear Martinez was done. So I don't understand. Maybe there were just some people that were betting heavy money on Martinez. They were mad about it. I don't know. Again, I don't really like the matchmaking here because I thought this was a step back for Klein from her prior fight. And she was fighting an atomweight, somebody she just could physically bully. And like, that's the thing is like how much of this display was like improved solid striking and how much is just Martinez not having the physical tools to compete with someone of her size. I'm kind of left assuming it's like a half dozen of one and a half dozen of the other. So, anyways. Still, she got the win done. She, I believe, got a performance bonus, which I didn't really think she should get. What were the nights here? Fight of the night was Charrier versus Nate Landwehr. That makes a lot of sense. Performance of the night went to Kennedy, and yes, went to Fatima Klein. So she did get the performance of the night bonus. I probably would have given it to Derek Lewis. Honestly, it was a 35-second knockout. We tend to like those. And if we're going with like meaningful, I would have given it to Jake Matthews because beating Chidi and Njokuani is, I think, just a bigger deal than beating somebody who doesn't really have a pathway to victory for you. So it was a good performance by Klein, and it doesn't hurt her stock at all. But at the same time, I just thought that, you know, and it's not just me because like the betting odds I think indicated this, that she was a massive favorite and she just got the job done. So that was a bit of a weird performance of the night bonus. Anyways, but she gets 50 G's. That's all I've got. Also Jake Matthews is the one who like defends fighter pay, so I guess him not getting a bonus actually kind of does make me happy. Because he does by his own logic, he doesn't need more money. There we go. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. What do we got coming up here in the UFC next round? Is it the Poirier retirement card coming up? I want to say it probably is. No, okay, I'm reading this wrong. It is the Poirier versus Holloway card. By pay-per-view standards, this is not a particularly amazing card. I'll just quickly go over it, but like obviously I'm looking forward to Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 3. I mean, that is the draw. That is the one fight here. And there's other stuff here. Danny Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. That's a perfectly solid fight. I don't really know why we're doing Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Don't really understand that. And then I just don't trust Paulo Costa. And Mike Johnson's on the main card for some reason. Otherwise, further on down, I mean, Vinicius Oliveira versus Kyler Phillips. That should be a fun time. I am here for that. I am. Is there anything else I'm gonna be? Carly Giudice and Nicole Cagliari is a battle of two women that I'm not entirely certain are like ready to. Well, in Giudice's case, ready to be here because she got to the UFC with a record of 3-1, which I think is just too low. But you know, she is a fun action fighter. And so is, and Cagliari's a bit of an insane person. So like it's not, it feels more like a regional fight, but like it will be a very, very fun time. So there's that, there's the Phillips versus Oliveira fight. There's the main event. There's Ige versus Pitbull. These are worth looking forward to. And I mean, Holland versus Rodriguez will be a fun fight. I just don't think that it serves any purpose, and it's a bit weird. So anyways, that's the upcoming card. I will get more into detail with it, obviously, and give you my picks, my thoughts, and so on. I hope you enjoyed this recap, and I will see you next time.